There's some extra seats up here. Raise your hand if you have an open seat next to you. There's one, couple. Feel free to fill in, people. Alrighty. Okay, well, I'd like to welcome and thank everybody for being here. Hello, Milo. As we celebrate the life of Ryan Johnson, or George Johnson, as he was known by nobody. Hopefully you all got a chance to pick up a program. If not, there's probably some extras in the back when you leave. But we have an array of people that are going to share kind of some stories with you, and Ryan from, we finding my voice at the right level, Ryan, kind of different aspects of Ryan's life. And then we have a wonderful video put together, which reminds me, there are tissues down the middle aisle, so feel free to grab some and pass them if you need that. And then we'll also have an opportunity for those of you who feel comfortable getting up on stage and sharing a story about Ryan. We'll have kind of an open mic time, and I encourage people to do that if they feel comfortable. I'm keeping them short and sweet. For those of you who that's a bit much, which I can imagine, we'll actually have an opportunity afterwards to capture some video stories one-on-one, and so I really encourage all of you to do that so that we can kind of have lasting memories for Milo to hear some fun stories about his dad. So I'll make that announcement at the end as well. And if you didn't get a chance already, at the front there's a bunch of rocks that we encourage you guys to sign, write a word that reminds you of Ryan, a phrase, if you can fit it on there, to make a kind of memory rock garden out of those things. And I think that's all for the logistics right now. I realize I didn't introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Corey Murphy, or Corey Harmon as the program says, which is what a lot of you know me as. And I have literally known Ryan since before we were born. Our moms knew each other in Washington State and reconnected in Juneau, Alaska when they were pregnant with us, and we were born 2 months apart. So I've known Ryan from nursery rhymes to Michael Jackson Thriller dance parties to building forts, and then all the way up to us living next door to each other and having our own kids 2 months apart and raising them together. So, sorry, I'm dry-mouthed and emotional, and it's a lot. So anyway, it's been amazing knowing Ryan that long and seeing him through all those phases of life. And as I was thinking about this, I realized Ryan has had a lot of phases and a lot of he's very eclectic. That's the word I came up with. He has a very eclectic job resume. He has very eclectic interests. He has very eclectic friends. And as I look at it, all of you, you guys represent that. There's the climbing friends, there's the growing up friends, there's the family, there's the firefighter friends, there's the gym friends. Ryan just had this ability to, whether you knew him for 35 years or for 3 weeks, you just knew him, and he just kind of wrapped you up in the whirlwind that was Ryan and made you feel instantly very connected in the most genuine of ways, which is a very unique quality, and I think something that all of us in this room have experienced with Ryan, and I think that's one of the aspects we miss the most about him. So with that, I'm going to pass the floor over to Sam Dalen, who's the chaplain for the Juneau Fire Department, and he is going to get us started with some opening words.
Hi everyone, I'm Sam. I'm a 14-year friend, I guess, of Ryan, and I did not, for those of you who saw me come up the stairs, I did not break my foot climbing. I tried it in 1970, the year before I graduated, so now you can figure out how old I am. And with some guys from the climbing school from University of Washington, and I got my foot hung in the rope and ended up hanging upside down. So it was, I mean, that may be normal, but I said, yeah, I'm done. I'll just keep playing football. So, you know, that's it. I mean, when we come here, I mean, you look at the program, you wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for, what does it say? In love and memory. That's what we're here. We're here because we love. We're here because we care. Doesn't matter, like she said. I mean, look out there, you know, the climbing family, the loving family, moms and dads and grandparents, and I said, hey, you know, when you come to these, you're all family. A time of memory, time of celebration, and it's a tough time. So I just want to read a couple passages, say a couple prayers, and I'll be done. It says, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up. And this one's important. I mean, it's all important, but this one's really important. There is a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. And you know, I mean, I've been around long enough now to know when you come to memorials, different people come with tears. Some people come with joy. Some people just get free. Say, hey, man, I'm just going to dance. Dance like Ryan was here. Dance like we're on the mountain. But on the other side, never easy to come into one of these things, a loving memorial, not even for me, to say, you know, thank you, we'll see you later. Because I'm one of those kind of guys that believe in there is an afterlife and there is a later. So before I pray, I just want to read this. 3 things: peace, a place, and a promise. Peace, place, and a promise. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe in me. There's a promise. Don't be troubled. Don't be troubled. Don't worry. It will work out some way. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place. There it is, the second one. So we're 2/3 of the way done. So we have this peace, we have this place, and we have this promise. I'm going to go prepare this place for you, and I'll come again and receive you unto my own. He said, Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and the life. And the only way you come is through me. But there's a place. Some translations say, in my Father's house there are many mansions, there are many buildings, there are many dwelling places. We read there's a time to laugh, there's a time to cry, there's a time to mourn, there's a time to dance. In the midst of all this, with family, with friends, all those emotions come to the top. And we just have to say, well, hey, whatever it is, the person next to you may laugh when they see the video, the person on the other side may cry. But there's a time for everything. And there's not a right thing and there's not a right thing. There's a time for everything. So with that, I would just like you to join with me as we say a prayer. Lord, we come here today to remember. To remember Ryan. I said already it's not the beginning or the end. It's just a little blitz, a little bump. We'll see you later. We come here to say we need your everlasting loving arms to come from that place of your abode and come down here and love on us. Lord, we come, even the tears we shed, whether we dance, whether we laugh, we want to do it before friends. We want to be free enough to know that you care. So we come here today and we ask for your presence to be with us, to come from that place of your abode, to walk with us and talk with us. And Lord, we would say a special prayer for family and every friend, every climber, every high school student, even those that swam with him when he was in high school. And we thank you for your presence. And we pray in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Spirit. Amen. Some of you are fans of Moe's Barbecue. And the other day, I was talking to his wife. His wife said to me, you know what? I swam with Ryan. So the words that you heard before me is true. I mean, when I referred to Ryan as a friend 14 years because of the fire department, that's why I'm here. When he came into the fire department, came in twice as a volunteer. And I said, wow, this guy in 5 minutes was a friend. And that relationship always continued on. When I would walk down the street, he would cross the street to say, hey, Sam, how you doing? I'm great, Ryan. Where you been? hanging upside down somewhere. I said, yeah, that's what you do. So just know that, hey, this is a time to laugh. This is a time to cry. This is a time to rejoice. This is time to dance. Thank you, and God bless.
And next up, we have Reed Harris and Jeff Fanning, who are going to do the eulogy.
Good afternoon. A brief point of clarification. The Juneau Police Department does know Ryan as George Ryan Johnson, but that's a story for another time. Ryan was a fan of gonzo journalist Dr. Hunter S. Thompson, who has a quote, "There he goes, one of God's own prototypes, a high-powered mutant of some kind, never even considered for mass production. Too weird to live and too rare to die." Surely this is an apt description of Ryan, and those of you that knew him well will agree. He was not a normal human, calmly passing through the placid waters of a prescribed 9-to-5 life. He was a meteorite, ripping through the thick atmosphere of an existence that defied convention and societal norms. Ryan was the wild card. He was the walrus. He woke up in the morning, if he had bothered to sleep at all, and jumped into his pants, usually with both legs at the same time. No time was wasted, and he fully dedicated himself to his pursuits. Ryan was in a hurry. George Ryan Johnson, as he is known, was born in Juneau on April 29, 1983, to Steve and Ruth Johnson. The family moved to Myerschuck in 1985, where Ryan attended preschool and kindergarten in a one-room schoolhouse. He also honed his sense of adventure while skiffing around the area's archipelago and cooking gourmet meals in his treehouse. The Johnsons returned to Juneau in 1989, and Ryan lived here intermittently ever since. I remember Ryan as a smiley, mischievous 7-year-old in a Carhartt jumpsuit that threw snowballs at passing cars and never wanted to observe bedtime during sleepovers. He was sugar high on life. You know this. Luckily, his family enrolled him on the swim team, where he quickly found an outlet for his energies and became an accomplished athlete. Ryan's swimming style wasn't Michael Phelps smooth. It was more drunken Irish bar fight windmilling. And he'd hit the finish line completely exhausted, but oftentimes in first place. Despite his many victories in the pool, a shoulder injury cut his time as a swimmer short, and Ryan rechanneled his focus into climbing. Ryan graduated from Juneau Douglas High School in 2002. During high school, he spent a year abroad in Oulu, Finland, receiving little academic credit for the exchange, but developing a healthy wanderlust that stayed with him his entire life. Ryan attended the University of Montana in Missoula, and most recently took classes at the University of Alaska Southeast in order to further his business, Tongass Fitness. Ryan lived a semi-nomadic van life lifestyle well before it was a fashionable hashtag. His climbing brought him to many exotic places, from Yosemite Valley to Kyrgyzstan, but he always called Juneau home. Ryan talked a lot, and mostly about climbing. People who didn't know Ryan well struggled with his intensity. Ryan was generous and caring to a fault, to his family, his friends, new acquaintances, and strangers alike. His disarming manner and genuine interest in others could be perplexing in this age of electronic isolation through social media and online communication platforms. Ryan didn't text, he called. Maybe because he couldn't text quickly enough to keep up with his hyperactive brain, or maybe because he valued the sound of a human voice more than the mere conveyance of an idea from one LCD screen to another. I see hundreds of people in this audience, and only someone like Ryan, that human Energizer bunny, could have the strength to support so many friendships. Our loss is profound. The Johnson family, Milo, his co-parent Maggie, his large and diverse circle of friends, the gym and climbing communities he was an integral part of, all are left with a void to fill. The kid carried a lot of love. The outpouring of support from people affected by Ryan's passing has been welcome and surprising. His parents had no idea he had so many friends. Ryan cut a wide swath through life and packed more adventure into his 34 years than most people will experience during the full span of their lives. Ryan would have considered his relationships with his community, family, and especially his son Milo to be his life's work. The candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long. Ryan's energy, great as it was, has evaporated and moved into the next plane of existence, where surely it is gathering, becoming denser and hotter, and like a nascent star, will once again shine brightly for others to enjoy. Ryan is survived by his son, Milo Timothy Johnson. Hey, Milo. Stephen Ruth Johnson, his parents, brothers, Matthew Subotnick and Joshua Johnson, grandfather, Bill Shackelford, numerous aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, nephews, and many friends in Juneau and the climbing community. Please learn this lesson. Do not waste your days. Ryan never did. Our time in this world is finite. Spend that time pursuing your passions and tell those that are important to you, friends and family, that you love them. It does much honor to Ryan and the love that he showed us all.
Ryan was in a hurry. He was in a hurry to conquer as many mountain peaks as possible, to become a father, to build a dream, a gym, a family. Most of all, he was in a hurry to live. In the following weeks, you will read a lot about Ryan's legacy. Stories of his accomplishments are going to be featured in climbing magazines and journals. He will be hailed as an Alaskan ice climbing pioneer. What you will not read about is his legacy as a man, father, partner, son, brother, and friend. You won't read about his infectious smile, his pride in his parents, where he came from, or his love for his son. You see, I wasn't part of Ryan's climbing world, and to be honest with you, I had no idea how much of an accomplished climber Ryan really was. He would casually mention this trip here or there, sometimes to faraway lands, but always without mention of how impressive his feats really were. That's the kind of man Ryan was. I had the pleasure of living with Ryan for 5 years. Mostly pleasure. Things got a little dicey when Ryan worked out at the mine, but how else are you going to earn the nickname Wild Card without a little bit of excitement? The housemates and best friends, Reed, Khalid, Daniel, and I, always looked forward to the weeks Ryan would come home. He brought an indescribable energy into the house. He was contemplative when the moment required silence, and hilarious when the moment begged for laughter. He had a remarkable way of looking into your eyes, letting you know he was with you and truly cared. That soft gaze that said, "I am here, I am present." We will all miss hearing about his latest career or life-changing plans, which seemed to happen every other day. Glowingly, he would say, "Jeff, this is it. This is the next big thing for me. This is what I'm going to do next." He was like a kid in a candy store, and he wanted to taste all of it, almost like he knew his time was going to be cut short. Ryan had big dreams and the passion to follow through. That passion he channeled. He channeled it into his business, which he was rightfully proud of. When we lived together, he would spend late night hours conceptualizing, planning, and then reworking those plans. I remember waking up one morning to a crazed man who clearly hadn't slept a wink. As I came down the stairs and walked into the living room, he jumped off the couch, ran over to me, and said, "Look what I made." With a cheek-to-cheek smile, he handed me a stack of paper he had clearly written all night long. Impeccably drafted in Ryan's all-caps handwriting, his concept included drawings, calculations, and a business plan. Frank and Ryan had stayed up all night long and built the first concept of what would eventually become Tongass Fitness. That's the kind of passion Ryan had, the kind that keeps you awake at night. You see, Ryan didn't have time to sleep. He had things to do. Ryan was in a hurry. One thing we often did in those glory days, and I admit I was probably the instigator, was roll into the Arctic bar with a handful of quarters. For those of you who are not familiar, the Arctic bar was a locals joint, the kind of place you don't walk into, especially during Ryan's GQ phase. The Arctic had an antique jukebox that would mechanically pick up a CD of our choice and play the selected song once or as many times in a row as we had quarters. Someone must have accidentally put a CD in the jukebox, which happened to have Britney Spears' "Hit Me Baby One More Time" on it. Being the young punks that we were, we would pump that jukebox full of quarters and enter that ridiculous song over and over again until we ran out of credits. The barrage needed to be a surprise, or else we'd be caught red-handed. Keep in mind, these old jukeboxes aren't like the new digital ones where you can just hit next. You had to wait it out long after we had gone. Imagine hearing that song 7 times in a row. We really got a kick out of that. During the darkest hour, after shedding many tears, I met up with our friend Jared to have a toast to Ryan. We decided to meet at a seldom frequented bar. It was dark, quiet, and seemed fitting for a low-key toast to our good friend. Jared was running behind, so I sat at the bar by myself. The music that was playing was so sad that I had to ask the bartender to play the next song. He sauntered over to his iPad and clicked next, and then continued making drinks. That next song, somehow, was even more sad and depressing than the last. Every time the bartender would skip the track, another sad song would play. That happened over and over again, one sad song after the next. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, it all clicked, and I broke out into laughter right there in the bar, all by myself. I've never been too much of a spiritual person, but in that moment, I somehow knew it was Ryan, and he knew exactly what it would take to cheer me up and make me laugh. Then I had a moment of freak out because I realized I could probably never listen to music again. Heaven probably has an unlimited supply of quarters. I don't remember if it was because Milo popped into his life or the realization that if we lived together any longer, our friendship would turn into common law, but we decided it was time Ryan got his own place. Ending the bromance was bittersweet. Those great glory days were coming to a close as Ryan began to move out. The house became quiet and clean. Ryan next moved to his parents, next to his parents, in an apartment he helped his father Steve build. He was so proud of the work he did with his dad. Working with his hands, building something tangible. He connected with Ruth and Steve as an adult and as a parent. He cherished that time so much. On May 9th, 2015, Ryan became a father when Milo Timothy Johnson was born to him and his co-parent, Margaret Eileen Elliott. We only began to see the other softer side of Ryan after his son was born. Milo, you are the best thing that ever happened to Ryan. I know this because every time he and I would catch up, Ryan would tell me how happy he was and how amazing fatherhood is. Ryan would say, "Jeff, you really need to try this, man. It's amazing." To which I would reply, "Ryan, I don't think it's something I can just dip my toe into the water and try and emphasize." At the time, I really thought he was trying to get more of his friends to become fathers so that he would have people to hang out with at the playground. But if you ask anyone in this room what their most recent conversation was with Ryan, it probably involved him telling you how much he loved being a dad. He would shout it from the mountaintops. He was the happiest I have ever seen him. Ryan, you wild card, we're gonna miss you. I was told that when Ryan and Marc-Andre's skis were recovered at the base of the towers, there were 2 ravens playing in the snow together. As we grieve this great loss, it is important to remember that he will always be with us. We will see you in the mountains, in the dance of a raven, in the song on the radio. Your energy is everywhere. You are everywhere around us. You don't have to hurry anymore, Ryan. You are now free to climb without ropes to hold you back. So climb on, brother. Climb on.
Few of you may know this, but Ryan secretly loved poetry, and we would like to close with a poem from Kahil Gibran's The Prophet. For what is it to die, but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? I promise I'm going to cry. And what is it to cease breathing, but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you indeed sing. And when you have reached the mountaintop, then shall you begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then shall you truly dance. Thank you.
This is definitely my happy place where I can chase out the crazy. And solo is just such a fun way to go. He just moved. Maybe we got like, oh, this is gonna be kind of sketchy for a second. Oh, God. It is just so freeing. Like, you know how you like to go run trails and like bound and have fun and everything besides like the regimented track? Being on a rope in the mountains to me is like being on a track. It's just like, if you fall in the mountains, you get hurt no matter what. And like, I mean, I have a rope in my backpack. I have screws. I can just stop anytime and be safe and go home and all that. But like, being tied to the mountain is just like, just going and like running in the hills and like climbing up frozen icicles. It is just so much fun. It's beautiful. Oh God, my monkey needed this. Ow! God, I love ice climbing. Dude, just climbed right next to the chasm.
Dude!
Dude, it's all good, it's all good. Just, yeah. Beautiful. Sleep for like 2 weeks when it's raining, wake up and you're in your backyard again. Sunshine, having fun.
Okay, maybe I'll go around.
Yeah, me too.
What's wrong?
I'm kind of frozen.
Are you scared?
No, it's all good. Yes, I'm sort of getting wet.
Sometimes it's a little bit more technical to cross glaciers than just walking. You gotta do a little bit of climbing. And Ryan just showed us how to do that. Glacier Travel 705 with Ryan Johnson.
I like the challenges in climbing. The physical challenges, you know, they're substantial. And then the mental challenges, even the stuff like we've been doing the last couple of days, it's really taxing. You have to go shopping, and how much gas, how much food, how much of this, how much of that.
How many is that per person, per day?
Well, I'm fat, so you guys can, I'll just eat myself for a while.
Looks like a lot.
And then it all changes again, and you're on the wall, and you have objective dangers, and you know, all of that, and the friendships you make. You know, I haven't known Sam more than a couple of months now. Spent any time together really, and you make new friends, and you get to share inspirations and ideas, and you get to go out on, you know, grand adventures, uncharted territory. It's, you know, it's pretty cool. I really enjoy it. I also kind of like the idea of there's personal accountability in climbing. You're accountable for everything you do, and there aren't that many places in life where you get that kind of, find that kind of honesty, I don't think.
I'm not gonna feel bad about this. When it's sunny tomorrow, we're gonna hike our fucking asses over, line up for something else, and we find something else. How's that sound?
Sounds good, man. Let's do it. We're making the right decision. We're making the right decision. Fuck.
When you compare it to other like really adrenaline-filled sports, climbing lasts a lot longer. Maybe it's not as intense, but you know, like when you're on a 3,000-foot face and you're considering being stuck in that moment of, you know, keeping your head together and keeping everything going and not making mistakes. If you're doing that for 2 days, 3 days, you know, you don't get that skiing. You know, you don't get that even on like a 6,000-foot ski line. It's still over in a couple of minutes. Whereas climbing, after a long climbing trip, sometimes you're just drained, just exhausted mentally, physically, and it feels really, really, really good.
Ryan, this doesn't look like climbing. What's going on?
Oh, best day. 2 trips up to Mount Wilson.
Let's see those tips.
Oh, isn't that doing better? There's right hand. There's left hand. Some rope burn. It takes a certain kind of cuckoo to go and try to climb things the way we want to climb, because it's not very popular and people don't really give it, so you don't get famous climbing the way we climb. But the climbing's very unique, very interesting, and very thought-provoking. Like you have to be very present in order to do well with this. Like you have to be able to climb with a very open mind. You can't get tunnel vision because the protection, the way you make these routes safe, really requires, you know, it might just bang, you got like a piece, but then you have to go climb for a while, right? You have to go climb like another couple hundred feet, and then on easy stuff, but then you get a piece of gear and then bang, and then everything turns hard again, and you got to be able to have like this mobile attitude towards it all. I'm loving life, buddy.
Yeah, that's what we like to do. Love life.
It's beautiful. Can't argue with that.
Hey, who's that?
Me.
Who's that? That's still you. Who's this?
Daddy.
Okay.
Where's the cab, Milo? That's the cab. Okay, now where are the tires? Yeah. Okay, now stabilizers. You know where the stabilizers? Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Dropping.
Okay, here we go.
And push up. And push up. And come down. And push up.
First time. Hold on, Milo. Hold on. Put yourself back up.
Yeah. That's my little boy. Doing his bubble thing. There he is. The Batman. What do you think, Milo? What you doing?
What's that? I like the queen. Why did the queen fell down? Oh my god.
The more balanced my life is, the more productive I feel. When I'm killing it as dad and I'm climbing a bunch, I just feel good.
So we're gonna drive one more loop through. See if Calico has any climbing in store for us today, or if it got soaked too. Then back to the hot tub. How's that sound, Johnson?
Stoked.
Ryan, what's going on here?
Oh, you know, Black Hole Wall. Wait, your turn.
Yeah, it's I thought it was more scary than hard. Well, here we are, Ryan. Got stormed off of drifting. Got ourselves a jungle descent.
Wind up high looks pretty ferocious. That's great news for me. Everything getting all nice and wind hammered. I'm gonna keep being black and white. I should probably not shave. I look like an apparition. Yeah, it is beautiful out. This is gorgeous. I do see a cloud right back into Gastineau Channel, and there's one kind of above Juneau, but make do. I like this weather. I love where we live. Doesn't matter what it is, on this part of the drive, like just driving up the channel, like the sun's coming up and it's reflecting off like the ice and all the houses, and everything is just catching light in these really neat little sparkly ways. And then, you know, in the fall, like I love how the clouds like get tangled up in the trees. This is one of my favorite reasons to live in this town, actually. It's just fantastic. I love it here. It's nice to be able to get out and go do other things and see other places, but Juneau is just spectacular.
wonderful, wonderful place.
Whoa. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Now I'm scribbly as black and white. This is crazy. Now I'm zoomed in. Now I'm night vision. There we go. Now it's getting wild. What? Where am I from? Did Andy Warhol paint me? Wow!
All we do is climb, and we'll just keep on climbing until the day we die. Until the day that we die. Until the day that we die. Oh, how they make us pay when we do not walk their way. With their hands in my pocket and the number by my name, and the war is on the way. The war is on the way. You got another thing coming, because my war is on its way. My war is on its way. All my life, patiently, I've been putting in the time, grinding my teeth. So won't you come, that's for me. I've been working overtime. Oh, remember me. Remember me. I won't climb, I won't climb. No, I won't climb, I won't climb. No, I won't climb, I won't climb. No, this ladder to the top to see where it goes.
Whoa. Deep breaths. But also how amazing that all of that footage exists, right? To be able to remember him in real life and not just in pictures and hear his voice. Next to the stage is somebody who knows this side of Ryan, this climbing side, more than a lot of us do. And it can kind of share that side of Ryan that a lot of us knew he climbed but didn't know he climbed. So here is Sam Johnson.
Hey everyone. So my name's Sam. I'm a climber, alpinist, clinical social worker living in Seward, Alaska. Been a really good friend of Ryan's here for amazingly short, 6 years. So many of you out here have spent much of your life knowing him. Ryan and I first met back in 2012. I was looking for a partner for a trip to Kyrgyzstan and China, and I've been watching Ryan's accomplishments for years. He'd been watching mine. It's kind of natural to team up. However, we wanted to get to know each other first, and that's when I first came to Juneau. I met Reed and Jeff and all these guys and got to stay at their downtown house, and there was just it was a wonderful trip. We did a big new route, and you know, something about I feel like you guys will connect with this. Something about Ryan. There's this certain kind of like openness that he had, where you could kind of generally know that you could feel safe with him. You kind of knew where he stood, and I think that was maybe the part that stuck out the most. And Ryan's the youngest of three brothers. I'm the oldest of three siblings. My two siblings are girls. And Ryan, I had never had a brother, obviously, and Ryan just clicked right into that spot for me. And it's funny because we talked all the time, but something he said after I had returned from a different trip to China and Kyrgyzstan, where I didn't get along as well with my partner on that trip. We were talking about it afterwards, and he said, Sam, the one thing that I, when I was talking to my friends about how your trip went, was that, Sam, our partnership there's never been a question. There's never been any doubt about our mutual respect and trust, the depth of it. I think partly that comes because Ryan and I had the same deep level of passion for outdoor sports, but also the same openness and genuineness as human beings. And so, as you all know, Ryan was very passionate about alpinism, but he was also very passionate about fatherhood. And every time we talked on the phone, he would talk about Milo. But I think, just to keep us kind of focused here, I want to kind of maybe focus on one sort of major theme, which is extrinsic versus intrinsic values. So I think my favorite thing about Ryan is that he operated from very intrinsic values. In the climbing world, sometimes you meet people who are more concerned with the after effects of the climbs that they do. They want to have completed a climb, not to climb. The point being very important in sort of choosing partners, because you want to be in those dangerous and special places with somebody who's wholeheartedly there, not there because they're hoping to have some type of financial reward or something like that come from the climb. You want someone who's 100% present so that you can count on them to make decisions with you in the moment that will help you come home safe to your sons, your loved ones, your family members, and partners. And Ryan operated from a very intrinsic kind of value set. When he felt that something was right, then he would take that course of action, whether it be, he has laid down his life for me. I don't know how many of you out here have heard the podcast that our friend Evan Phillips put together. It's worth checking out to learn about his climbing life. But there was a time that we were, 25 pitches up a 40 pitch face, and a huge avalanche was coming down, and we had been getting hit by these things on rappel, trying to escape basically and get back home safe. And there had been generally like lighter snow that had been falling down the face, a lot of what we'd call spindrift or powder avalanches. And this time, Ryan and I heard a deep rumbling noise. It was the kind of nightmare noise, the one noise that you don't want to hear when you're trying to get home safe. And Ryan's first instinct was to throw his body on top of me, throw himself on top of me. And just sort of like an illustration of what was important to him, his friends, his family, his loved ones. He would do his best. He would, in whatever way he was capable of, would sacrifice himself for those that he loved. And on the same token, I think a lot of us out here also know that he had a different side to him that was really fun and could be even selfish at times, but it was always balanced by this truly selfless kind of like giving aspect of his personhood. And so I guess that's the heart of what I want to say. Aside from that, just to the non-climbers out here, I wanted to kind of speak to you and let you know that, I think a lot of times people have a question in their minds when someone who's doing this type of sport or pursuit goes missing or dies, and a lot of people say, well, why would this person do this? It doesn't make sense. Their life has been shortened as a result. And I just wanted to say, just so hopefully to bring you all a little bit more peace, that if you loved Ryan and you loved the person that he had grown to be over the years, then you must know that he wouldn't be the person that you had come to love if he hadn't had all of the experiences that he'd have had. And so many of those are driven by his climbing. So climbing kind of presented this catalyst for his personal growth and transformation, and especially in the last 3 years, since Milo came into being and since Ryan stopped drinking. It's been amazing to see the level of personal transformation that he's been able to achieve. He was wholeheartedly participating in his own life and in all the lives of those that he loved. And he was way better at staying in touch than I was. He was always calling, like our friend Clint said, always often at the wrong time, calling me while he was on the toilet, for example, or while I was very busy at work and that type of thing. There are a lot of great stories that I have about Ryan, but since this is a general family audience, some of them are not able to be told, but you all know that he was a wonderful and wholehearted person, and I just wanted to thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to speak. And I wish you all the best in your personal healing and grieving processes. Thank you.
Well, that transitions perfectly into if anybody wants to share their own stories. So again, for those of you who feel comfortable getting up in front of this group and sharing a story, I encourage you to. If not, we'll be doing recordings one-on-one afterwards, and that's a great place to share those not so stage appropriate stories, but that maybe we'll make a version 2 video for Milo that he can view when he's 18, so he can know there's some fun stories about Ryan that should be captured. So with that, maybe just for order, if you guys want to come up on this side and then exit that side. Anybody? Any takers? I know it's intense. Nobody has to do this. I'll just give it a minute. All right. Well, here we go. I dare everybody to guess if this person is related.
I'm Stan Johnson. I'm Steve's younger brother, and he's the better looking one. A long time ago, when I was in college, I took a mountain climbing class, and the instructor was Willie Unsold, who was on the first expedition to Everest, and the first successful American group to climb Everest, and I got the bug. I didn't realize that I was partly responsible for this. But fortunately, Ryan's dad and I climbed it a little bit together, and we learned soon enough that it wasn't for us. We didn't hang upside down like Sam, but there was a draw to the mountains. There's a side of Ryan many of you are not aware of. Before he could drive, I invited his dad and him to come with me to a rifle shoot over in South Dakota. And we went, and neither of them, I think, had ever shot on a competitive match before, but it was a national championship, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to go, and we camped out in this guy's ranch. It was 50 miles from the nearest town, and he owned, 20, 30, 40,000 acres, and had a kind of little city out there, and there were, 75 people, maybe, guys, shooters there. Ryan had never done anything like that in his life, and by the end of it, he had figured out how it worked. He won the #1 shooter for a junior, but you could see his competitive nature show up. And I think we've all been in places that we're probably glad we survived it, but I'm sure Ryan is a place that he totally loved. Sorry, we took a helicopter ride up there this morning. It's unbelievable what those kids did. Thank you.
Boy, this is intimidating, and I don't like speaking in front of people. And I don't have a story of Ryan that I'd like to share because selfishly I'm going to keep those close to my heart. And as most of us know, they'd have to be censored anyways. I just want to thank everyone for coming here today and loving and supporting my family and the Johnsons, who are also my family. Ryan came into my life as quickly as he left it. And I'm so grateful that I have our son to raise. And it's a daily honor to remind Milo of his father and his accomplishments. And I thought, oh, I should probably say something funny, right? That's what Ryan would do. So I didn't know anything about climbing. But the one thing I learned was that y'all are a bunch of stinky kids. I picked Ryan and our friend Clint up from a 48-hour excursion one day, and they hop in the car, and oh, I didn't say anything but man, guys. And they're like, oh, are you hungry? I'm hungry too. Let's go to Sandpiper. And I was like, oh my God, guys, really? I'm gonna take you to Sandpiper? Like, you smell so bad. But I took them. And that is, that's, I guess, my short, funny story. Thank you for coming, guys.
Hello, my name is Khalid Habash, and I knew Ryan since 2009. I moved to Juneau through Jeff Fanning, and we all lived at the now infamous 404, which was the best summer of my life. And I didn't know anybody. I barely knew Jeff. And I don't think Ryan was employed at that moment. And he was living in the basement. And he said, look, man, why don't I show you around? I said, great. I was ecstatic. I was a little kid, so excited to be in Alaska. He took me out to Boy Scout camp, and we took some wonderful pictures, and we shared some travels. And then he took me back to his folks' house, and we sat at the table, and he made me tomato soup and cooked me a tuna fish sandwich and cut it and put it on the plate in front of me. And it made such a huge impression on me. Like, there was no machismo, there was no, he was just so humble, and I just met the guy. And it was so hospitable and such a warm feeling. I'm not a climber, I'm not a skier, but so I never really appreciated that badass climbing part of Ryan. He'd just say, hey, I'm going to Kyrgyzstan. Oh, great, man, be safe, have fun. Fast forward to 2015, and my daughter, Zinnia, was born on May 7th, and Milo was born on May 9th, and that became a really wonderful part of our friendship. I moved back home to Portland, Maine, but we stayed in touch, and he'd call me, and I believe I was one of his first friends to have children before, and he's like, Khalid, this is hard. You've been doing this for 5 years already? And we'd share diaper stories and bathtub stories, and hey, Milo's doing this, is Zinnia doing this? And I really loved those phone calls. And I have a wonderful voicemail from this past Christmas, and his classic high-pitched Johnson voice, and he said, Merry Christmas, mother beep! And I'll forever cherish that. So it was such a privilege to know that goofy, adventurous badass. So thank you.
We will now commence the game of peekaboo. All right, well, thank you to those who shared, and like I said, I really encourage as many,
Yeah. Absolutely. You want to just say hi to everybody? You can be really loud. Say, hello, everybody. Is that intimidating?
I'm pretty intimidated by this group too. My name's Bob, Bob Plum, and I was on the periphery of Ryan's life for a number of years while I lived here in Juneau, and a lot of mutual friends. And just before I retired from where I was working, Ryan gave me the opportunity to get in shape at his new gym. And I really felt like I got to know him in that time. He worked me really hard. And we connected, like he connects with everybody probably, but I felt like he connected with me. And during that time, I was packing up to leave, and he was starting a library, climbing library, and I had a lot of climbing literature and books, so every couple days I'd take a file box full of stuff down to the gym, and he'd take it home, and his library grew pretty quickly, I think. But in that he also got a memory stick that I had that had a bunch of information about a climb I'd done years and years ago, back when I was climbing hard. And he hung on to that. And then out of the blue, in late February, he gave me a call, wanting to know if he could share that information with Mark. And of course I said yes, because that's sort of the way it is. But we had about a 30-minute conversation that day. And he was feeling really, really good. He was looking forward to climbing with Mark. He was strong. He'd been doing some good stuff. I know he'd been climbing with some folks that post on Facebook, and so I'd been following some of the things that they've been doing around here. Good stuff, big. And, in the time in the gym, we talked about risk, because Milo was just been born back then, and being a dad. And he was so proud of being a dad. And the talk about risk, we went there, and it's like everybody has their own level of what's tolerable. And when I was young, mine was way high, and his was pretty high too. I gotta say, he was good. Got off. That conversation went on for a while, and we got off the phone, and I wasn't worried about him at all. He was going off to do something big. It was like a stepping stone for what was coming up later in the spring for him. And then I got word that he was overdue, and I figured, he'll pop his head out of a snow cave, and I'll see that infectious smile again. And it didn't work out. And I don't know, I just felt like I had to say something, but I'm really gonna miss him. Thanks.
I'll be fast. My name's Adrian. I worked out with Ryan and some of our close friends at Tongass Fitness. And so I met Ryan, I think at Jeff's place, and I just heard the stories about him and some fireworks and all these random things that he used to do. And so when I heard he was opening Tongass, of course I was a little reserved, but the mornings that we had working out together, he was so fun. He was so energetic and so passionate. I didn't even know about his climbing world. Same thing as you, Sam, or who was it? Somebody came up here and talked about how they didn't even, Khalid, how he didn't even know about his climbing. He'd just say, yeah, I'm gonna go on this trip. And he would go. And he wasn't braggy. I'd come in and he had this random story about how he ran 10 miles that morning and he's totally fine. And one of my favorites was when we did a hike along the Juneau Ridge. And I told him about it. And I said, hey, we're gonna do this hike along the Juneau Ridge if you wanna join. He's like, oh, well, I first gotta work out and then I gotta do this. And maybe I'll meet you guys the opposite way. I'll come up and run and meet you. And I was like, sure, okay, if you can. So we're on this Juneau Ridge. We're all super, super tired. And then all of a sudden, like way, way in the distance, we see this guy running towards us. We're like, oh my God, he made it. And so he runs up and we just kind of saunter down. And he runs right up to us. He's like, oh, dude, I thought you guys would have made it much faster. You guys should have been way ahead of that. I'm thirsty, dude. Did you guys bring any water? I didn't have any water. Oh, and so we started eating snacks and he doesn't have anything. He's all, oh, what are you eating? I was like, do you have any snacks? He's like, no. I was like, oh my God. So we all started feeding him and giving him water and he just didn't need it. He had so much energy about him that it was contagious. I'm so lucky to have known him, to still hold on to that passion that I didn't realize how rare that is until I get away from it. And then when you're away from it and you come back to it and you see the videos that he's talking and he's so articulate about what he's passionate about and he's been doing that for so long, I didn't know the depth of him. I'm so thankful to have had just that surface. It's affected me tremendously in the most wonderful ways. I want to go climb something right now. I want to go scale that same mountain that I did where I met him. So anyways, on behalf of our little workout crew and everything, we're going to miss that guy so much. But the jokes are going to absolutely live on through him. So thanks everybody for coming together. This community is so wonderful to be able to come together with the closest people to him and just stand next to you. I just want to stand next to you. I want to feel more of him and feel it all, the good and the bad, everything at the same time. Whatever that makes come out of my nose, it's fine. I'm just going to embrace that. So thank you.
I'm Bill Leedy. We met Steve 35 years ago when he helped build our house up on Gastineau Avenue. We didn't know Ryan very well. We overlapped just a few years at Glacier Swim Club. Beloved Mike Miller was our common friend. When we decided to have a child, we have no idea what and who is going to wind up in our lap. Steve and Ruth are wonderful parents. They should always think of themselves as wonderful parents. They gave that person who wound up in their lap the freedom to become who he was. You can't do better than that. You're always going to be great parents. My mind, everybody's.
I'm going to try to get through something. So for those who don't know me, I'm Josh, and I'm Ryan's brother. And I've been struggling with a lot of regret. Because I put Ryan on his first rope. Some of you know the story. And I would get texts from Ruth, why the hell did you do this? And I know she was joking. And she would message me, look at what you created. and I don't feel I created that, but I want to say to you all that unbeknownst to a lot of people, Ryan and I communicated a lot lately. And he would ask me what I thought of him climbing again, much like a lot of you. And a few weeks back, I guess it's months ago now, the climb before this one, he had been out overnight, didn't tell anybody he was going. I got a text from Ruth. Your brother's on a damn mountain again. At which point, I called Ryan, and his answer, being Ryan, was, what am I, 12? I got to tell everybody where I'm going all the time. It was just the way he was. But what I will say in listening to all of this is, about 3 years ago, he contacted me and asked me if he should start climbing again. And I've done a lot of things that have made people wonder why I do them. And my only answer was, because if you ever stop doing something that makes you you, the people who love you will lose you. And so I thank you, the climbing community, the people in this room, for reminding me that he is still doing exactly what he loves. And he is exactly where he needs to be. And so, thank you for reminding me of that.
My name's Britta, and a couple years ago, there was a prompt to write letters to Ryan's family. So I was looking through my Facebook and my text messages, looking for some of the authors that he had sent that he was interested in, so I could share some names of books or poems or things with his family and with Milo. And I came across the first message that Ryan ever sent me on Facebook, and he said that he needed a climbing partner and he wanted it to be relaxed. And he wanted to climb 2 to 3 times a week. And so I had heard kind of that he was a pretty good climber, so we ended up climbing. And it's funny that the guys mentioned he talked about climbing, because the entire time that we would climb at the rock dump, he would talk about healthy relationships. And I work at Aware, so I'm not sure if he wanted a climbing partner or just someone to help guide him, but that was where he was headed. And the other great thing about climbing with him was that he wasn't like other men who climb. So as a female, it can be annoying to find a male climber, and he would bow down if he didn't feel good. He would bow down if he didn't feel strong. He would just climb if his energy and his heart was into it. Otherwise, he wouldn't, and I thought that was really powerful. But the most powerful thing about Ryan is the community he built. And at Aware, we have someone who just started working here, and she's just been in Juneau for a couple months, so she's been here through a lot of this, and she's been inspired by the community's response to Ryan. And so she painted this sunrise, and she took it to AK Litho, and they ended up printing it for free. But she wants to do it as a fundraiser for Milo, and it's his quote. And it says, "There is a moment in the early morning where I found myself high on a snow-covered ridge or skinning fresh line. I am with a good friend, and there is less ahead than there is behind, and a new day is dawning. The air is filled with potential energy. Who knows what the day has in store? This is my favorite moment in life. I reach an awareness I have only ever found in the mountains with good friends." And so if you'd like to have this copy in your home, in your office, wherever, they're on the back table by a cake that was his 34th birthday cake. We replicated it. So come get this, come get the cake, and thank you for being such an amazing community.
Hello. So my name is Erica Simpson, and I've known Ryan since I was about 11, and I would say that collectively, we've been a part of a really amazing group of friends since that time. And we're all still friends. And there's a lot of us here tonight that have been a part of that group. And I'd say that sometimes you lose touch, and sometimes you find yourself getting back in touch with those people, and maybe you won't see each other for a while, and then you'll catch up and just pick up right where you left off. And Ryan was kind of one of those people. If I would leave for a while and not see him, I'd come back, and then we'd catch up again, and vice versa. But lately, it's been really wonderful because Ryan has been in Juneau for a while now, and he's been, one of the things that hasn't really been talked about is that he's been working, he's been building houses, and he's been working for Peak Construction, and he's been working on a house that's about 3 houses down from my house for about the past 6 months. And Ryan is one of those people that if anybody in here was ever having a bad day, I think that everybody would agree that your day would get better if you had even 5 minutes of interactions with Ryan. And so I think for me, be it that he was a couple houses down, for the last few months I've found myself intentionally just on a daily basis just strolling down the street to see if I could catch him at work, and most of the time I could. And he would show me the progress that he'd made on that house, and gosh, he was so talented. He was good at everything, really. I mean, he's an amazing climber, he's an amazing builder, he's an amazing person, human, athlete. He's just an amazing, he's basically everything that I'm not. And so I just found myself going down there a lot just so that my day could get better. And I'm still taking that walk every day, but I'm proud of him, and I'm constantly reminded of that. And about 7 weeks ago, I had walked down to see how much progress he had made that day, and I told him to stop by on his way home, and he said, no, I don't have time, I gotta go do this and this and that, and I said, okay, that's fine. But he stopped by anyways, and sat down for maybe about 30 or 45 minutes, and we chatted, and honestly, it's the happiest that I've ever seen Ryan in the 24 years that I have known him. He was just, there was nothing that was wrong in his life whatsoever. And of course, as everybody's expressed, he was just beyond ecstatic to be a dad, and just so proud of Milo, and loving his job, and just everything that was happening in his life was going perfectly. And I'm just very grateful that over these past couple of months that I've had the opportunity to see him almost every day. And so I am just really grateful for everybody that's here that I think can agree that he always made your day better. So thank you.
So I ate a burrito today, and one of the things that I love about Ryan is that he loved burritos. I don't know if you people know this about him, some of you probably do, but there couldn't be a better food on earth to Ryan than a burrito. And so as I was eating it this morning while I was at the swimming pool with my 2 kids who are also swimmers, I was like, dude, really? Today? There are burritos. So I just want to say to Ruth and Steve, I knew Ryan as a boy from seeing him at the pool, and I watched him grow up into this amazing man. And Maggie is dear to our family. She's like my kid's big sister. And I cannot tell you how much he meant to our family and how much he has meant to Maggie and how he has made all of us better people just by who he was. And so thank you. Thank you for raising such a wonderful, wonderful young man. And I know that everyone out here today is going to take a little piece of all the things that they've learned about Ryan, and they're going to hold them in their heart. And every time they eat a burrito, they're going to think about him, just like I did today. Thank you, everyone, for being here and honoring Ryan.
Hi, my name's Yasmin. I was traveling a couple of weeks ago, and while I was on the plane, I just wrote some things out, so I'm just going to read from my phone. Excuse me. Everything I see lately, I see differently. I see everything before me with the influence of Ryan's life and his genuine appreciation for simple pleasures. I remember on the first day I moved to Juneau, he let me stay in his very messy miner's bedroom while he was out at camp, being the most gracious host even though he wasn't even in town. I remember his intensity of those days. This was about 8 years back. Extreme hard labor and extreme joyful spontaneity, 36-hour trips to Vegas, gallivanting through the midnight Juneau scene, regaling stories of dangerous international climbing expeditions, showing a thoroughly detailed master plan of Tongass fitness, showing a thoroughly detailed plan of his Tongass fitness gym dream in his man cave in our basement, and always welcoming people in his space with a happy, genuine smile. Who was this man? I feel lucky to have witnessed the past 8 years of his life, a chapter of deep growth. He became sober, he became a dad, a man on a mission, a job juggler, a simple pleasure enthusiast, and most certainly a Juneau staple. The most impactful way I remember him was not by the way he gave me relationship advice, which I didn't ask for, but by his most heartfelt belief that that advice was for my purest benefit, for my highest self. In that moment and many more, I felt like he was my #1 cheerleader. He never strayed from that position. In every encounter in the past years, I had listened to more unsolicited advice, and without a doubt, they were all beautiful values that he lived by, that he knew brought each one of us closer to our best selves and to the meaning of life. Get outside, connect with nature, strengthen your body, support people you love, be present in the moment, go after your dreams, make time, follow words with action. If you want it, go get it, and take it easy. The last few years, I saw a relaxed Ryan, one who was not only content with the life he made, he was utterly happy. He was easy breezy, confident, sure of himself, and always happy to be right where he was. A relaxed Ryan, all coming from possibly one of the most intense people I've ever met. He lived his legacy to the maximum. The last pictures, videos, and adventure attest to that. Ryan, I miss my #1 cheerleader, and for that I'm sad. Because I know that without a doubt, you weren't only cheering for me, but you were a cheerleader for every single person in your life. You wanted to give that support, likely even to strangers in the bar. And I know I will miss you challenging my life choices, always annoyingly asking or pushing me to align more wholly my values and my life. to the point that after our talks, I really did question what I was doing and was able to make changes to accommodate a truer version of how I wanted to lead my life. And for that, I'm grateful. Reflecting on your life as I've known and seen it, I'm certain that your soul fulfilled its mission on earth. And for that, I'm so happy. Thank you for living your life so fully, unapologetically big and authentic. You lived by example so that we do not exactly walk in your wildcard shoes. You lived by example so that we could walk authentically in our own creative existence. I thank you, Ryan, and we all love you.
Hi, I'm Logan Lott. I was Ryan's business partner in Tongass Fitness. I don't really know what exactly to say here, but I just wanted to kind of express about Ryan's character. He was a really honest person, like probably one of the most honest people I've ever met, probably too honest sometimes. Like when he, this is before we started the gym, when he called me Fat Wolverine. Well, I'll always remember that. You know, 3 years ago, he knew that I was into powerlifting, and he was like, "Dude, I'm gonna start this CrossFit gym. You gotta be a trainer. You gotta be a trainer." And and I just thought he was just full of it, you know. Like, I didn't think this was actually going to happen. It was just one of these things Ryan talked about. Ryan was a talker, as we all know. One time we were selling tours on the dock, and he was just talking, just filling. I was in the booth next to him. Like, if you've not seen the tour sales thing, we're in a booth like next to each one is next to each other, and he just kept talking, talking. And at the time, I was actually having an argument with my fiance over texting. And I was like, "Dude, stop talking to me." And you know, but then we became friends again after a few short minutes. Yeah, he was a very honest, very talkative guy. He just had a lot of passion. Again, like, I didn't think anything was going to come out of this gym idea, but through his passion and his ideas and his knowledge that he had of construction, and like, I'm an idiot when it comes to that stuff, but Ryan just he was a machine. Like, he was so smart, and he was so passionate, and I'm just really thankful that to have had him in my life. And I can really say that I'm the man that I am because of him. Thank you.
Hi, Ruth, Steve. We just met a little while ago, but I just wanted to thank you and thank the family for just sharing a really amazing, brave, and inspiring man, son, husband, climber, athlete, friend with us in the community. My name is Bill Dean. I grew up here what seems like years ago, and as life would have it, despite dreaming of climbing all these mountains, just like Ryan did, I spent most of my life climbing everywhere else but Juneau. I had the opportunity to ski with Ryan about 3 years ago, and he struck me as one of the most brave people I've ever met. And I mean that in every sense of the way. I think bravery is doing what you know is right and what you feel is right, no matter what the situation and circumstances are. And in that sense, Ryan was absolutely inspiring and brave, in a way that's hard to describe. I was fortunate enough to move back here, and I did so partly because of folks like Ryan that were inspiring, that were parents, fathers, founding businesses, and taking on life with a passion that made me want to be here. And so, in so many ways, despite just briefly knowing Ryan, intersecting with him just far too short, he was inspiring, and thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jacob. I was Ryan's nephew, and I don't have like one specific story to tell, but throughout my life I've known him over 17 years, and throughout, as I grew older, I saw him less and less, but he still managed to come out of his way and see me every single time. Like he would have a huge smile on his face, and he would talk to me for 5, 10, 15 minutes just trying to catch up, you know? And he would always actually be genuinely interested in what was going on in my life, you know? He would remember what we talked about last time. He would bring it back up. And he'd make a real, he made a real effort trying to remember everybody's problems, you know, and trying to be a part of everybody's life. And I think that speaks greatly to his personality and who he was. So, thank you.
I respect everybody so much who's done this so far. My name's Caitlin McCurdy. I knew Ryan a really short time, unfortunately, here, but in that short time, he made a really huge impact on my life. And I just I've heard a lot of really cool stories about him stuff I just never knew, and maybe some of you shared with this, didn't take him seriously when he told you. And anyway, I knew him as more of a businessman, owning the gym, running that with Logan, and in the spirit of him and his impact in the short time I knew him, being a little bit uncomfortable. And he was very good at trying to prompt you to do this, and in the spirit of that, I'm stepping up here telling you this. So anyway, I wanted to say that I'm so grateful for him. He actually pushed me to be really uncomfortable and gave me an opportunity to open my own business and run it at his facility. And I don't know, I just wanted to somehow come up here and share with you guys that he somehow developed, not somehow, with all of your support, developed himself into this incredibly, this entrepreneur and professional person with a lot of depth and the ability to obviously impact people in so many ways and create so many amazing connections. And to his folks and to all you people that set the groundwork for this person that I got to know only in his most recent evolutions. Thank you. And his spirit of making me be a little bit uncomfortable and doing things that I might not really want to or be ready for. I really thank him for that, and I hope you all will continue to do that. And Milo, you'll know about how generous and how kind and how amazing he was and is, and we'll remember him for. Thank you.
Well, thank you everybody for sharing those stories. And again, there'll be an opportunity to share more and get those recorded afterwards. But we will get our final speaker up here. So Colleen Morgan. All right, who's a lifelong family friend. I'll get her up on stage.
A little less water, a little more Irish. Actually, that's water, definitely. Wow, everything that's been set up here already is written right here in my papers, pretty much. But what an incredible community you guys are. You already know all these things to be true about Ryan. I'll tell a few stories. I met Ryan 5 months before he was born, I was new to Juneau, and his mother Ruth was the skinny redhead who was assigned to train me at Bank of the North. And I remember saying to her one day, "You're pregnant, aren't you?" And she's like, "Oh my God, can you tell?" "Yes." But you should never make that mistake of saying that to a skinny woman, you know, "You're pregnant, aren't you?" But she was so excited. She was just lit up. And that is when I met Ryan. I saw him and the excitement in her eyes. She raised him to be an amazing young man. We had a young coworker at the bank who gave us all nicknames. Ruth might not remember this, but she called us nicknames like Sister Bright Star, and mine was Sister Blue Sky. She'd say, "Good morning, Sister Blue Sky." And I decided that Ruth's nickname should be Sister Morning Sickness because because of the few times that she would get sick. But our friendship began almost instantly. And looking back, I can't say whether or not Ruth brought me Ryan or Ryan brought me Ruth. And I'm incredibly, eternally grateful for both gifts. Ryan meant so much to me and to so many of us. He always managed to make us feel like we were the gifts in his life. But he was such a gift in my life. I spent more time with that new family than most would tolerate. Dinner 4 times a week, probably, at their house. Sometimes it'd be late in the evening, and I had ridden home with Ruth, and Ruth and Steve would look over at one another and just say, "Aren't you going to take Morgs home?" And Steve would say, "She's your friend." Like, but it just became natural to be such a part of that family. I lucked out. I didn't have to go through the pain of childbirth, but I got to be blessed with that child, got to become part of their family. And we always referred to Ryan as our boy. What's our boy up to? Where is our boy? And we always said, "I love you the most." Ryan and I said that to each other. Ruth and I say it to each other. We co-parented Ryan in his first 2 years before the Johnsons moved to the remote village of Myers Chuck. When Ruth and Steve both had to work, Ryan was my Saturday son, and we were best buddies. Ryan had nicknames too, like Bugs and Bugsy. We spent mornings in search of backhoes and bulldozers. I swear backhoe was his first word. I would babysit, and he'd say, "Draw me a backhoe." And so I'd draw him a backhoe, and he goes, "Now make it out of Play-Doh." And I did that. "Oh, now Legos, do it." So it was just always, he was always amazed. But we did laundry, we baked bread, we hiked in the park. Ryan was always happy, easy to entertain, anxious for adventure. He was so curious about everything, and I think that was his passion in life too, was maybe life was his passion. But when he was little, Ruth and I would be out taking him into stores and stuff. And Ruth used to say, "Ryan, hold your hands." And he would dutifully do that, and he'd do like this. "I'm holding my hands, Mom, I'm holding my hands." But he'd be looking all over the store, like he'd be touching the whole store with his big brown eyes, like, "I'm holding my hands, I'm holding my hands." He wanted so badly to just touch everything and be a part of everything. And I think, especially looking around this room, Ryan touched all of us. He might have been holding his hands, but he just had this uncontained zest for life. He touched us all so much in so many ways. One Saturday that I have to tell you about, when I was being the other mother for my Saturday son, this woman approached me in the bookstore where we were looking at children's books. And she'd been staring at Ryan, and she came over to me finally one day and said, or in that moment, and said, "Your baby is so cute." And I just looked at her and said, "Thank you." And then I rushed home to Ruth, and I said, "I'm sorry, I apologize. I could not say that that child was not mine. He was such a big part of my life." And anybody knows that if they'd seen Ruth and Ryan together, they'd know who belonged to whom. And definitely Ryan did not look at all like me, but he was a big part of my life. He was so sweet and sensitive and intuitive as a child. He had the sense of knowing about him. Sometimes it was just guessing which elevator was going to open up first. And he was right 50% of the time. Or maybe more. But sometimes he knew how much a person was hurting. And when Ryan was about 6, my sister Mary Ellen died of a heart attack. And I had visited Ruth and Steve in Myers Chuck after the memorial. And Ryan just slipped his hot little hand into mine. And he said, "Morgs, I'm so sorry about your sister Mary Ellen." And he had such compassion, and he said that with such emotion. And he was 6 years old. He made me melt into a little puddle of butter, you know. But he just seemed to always know to do the right thing. He always did. That same sister, Mary Ellen, was the attending nurse when Ryan entered this world. And I'm pretty certain she welcomed him home when he left this world. She loved him every bit as much, I'm sure, but she didn't quite know him as well. Everybody that's been up here today, all the articles that we've read and seen about Ryan, all these words continually pop up: visionary, mentor, motivated, compassionate, thoughtful, caring, driven, dedicated friend, loving father, inspirational, influential, passionate, funny as all get out, reliable, selfless. He truly was so much of those things and many more things. I think Adrian mentioned contagious. He just infected us all with his life and his love. It doesn't matter if you knew Ryan for a minute or a lifetime. I think we just all know that all those things are true about him. And we felt him, and we loved him for all those reasons. I thought I was going to get up here and sound like a biased parent, but clearly everybody knows all those things about Ryan. There's just not a bad word you can say about him. He always set aside his personal feelings just to do the right thing. And he lived life to the fullest, and he excelled at it. Ruth and I always said, that kid packs more life into 1 year than we could ever hope to do in twice the time. And what is amazing to me today, Reed, where are you? Stole my line. I have written here in my paper the same thing. The candle that burns twice as bright, burns half as long. But in Ryan's lifetime, Ryan gave us so much light, and that light will burn brightly always. We have a guest book at my home in Seattle for friends and family to stay overnight, and they always sign the guest book. And Ryan's last entry was just days before Mila was born. He wrote, "Well, A totally unexpected and lengthy visit this time. As we start our new family, I am learning more and more that it really does take a village. Love you the most, Bugs. I think before today, many of us were strangers to one another. And now, through the common thread of knowing Ryan, of loving him, and grieving the loss of him, we're all brought together, and this fabric of community is just woven with those common threads of how much we knew him, how much we loved him. And that fabric is what wraps us together, wraps us all, keeps us warm, and I'm sure the fabric of this Juneau community will help us survive this loss. I pray that it does. May the fabric never fray. Ryan will never be forgotten, and I'm gonna miss him like crazy. Love you the most.
I had it totally together until the love you the most comment. All right, so in closing, just kind of on behalf of Ruth and Steve and the family, you know, thank you guys all so much for being here for the last month, for being here for the last 35 years, for Ryan and in his life, and just all of the stuff for everybody who has donated their time and their talent and their resources and their hearts just encircling this family. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we encourage everybody to stay and mingle and continue celebrating and record videos and sign rocks and sign the guest book and have a drink. And Ruth and Steve are planning on staying in the front, so those who want to kind of greet them can come up here, and then the wake to follow at the Twisted Fish. And thank you all so much for everybody being here, for those that got on stage and poured their hearts out, and we love Ryan.